ladies and gentlemen, basketball aficionados, and to the millions of passionate fans tuning in from the archipelago of the Philippines and all around the globe. Welcome. We are here today to dissect, to analyze, and to truly comprehend a basketball game that defied logic, a game that tested the very limits of human endurance, tactical brilliance, and sheer athletic spirit. We are talking about the absolute blockbuster of a clash between Gilas Pilipinas and the New Zealand Tall Blacks in the Asia Cup qualifiers. If you thought you knew what international basketball looked like, if you thought you understood the hierarchy of the FIBA Asia and Oceania regions, I urge you to throw out the rulebook right now, because what we witnessed on that hardwood was not just a game of basketball. It was a masterclass in resilience. It was a testament to the human will. It was a wild, unpredictable, heart-stopping, breathtaking ending that will be etched into the annals of basketball history for generations to come. The title of today's deep dive says it all, and it is the only way to accurately frame this narrative. A wild ending, where the heart of Gilas Pilipinas proved to be the greatest factor on the court. To understand the magnitude of what transpired, we have to first understand the context, the history, and the immense, almost suffocating pressure that surrounds the Philippine national basketball team. In the Philippines, basketball is not a sport. It is a religion. It is a rhythmic bouncing of a ball on a makeshift court in a crowded barangay. It is a collective roar of a nation watching their heroes take on the giants of the world. For decades, the Philippine team has punched above its weight, relying on quickness, shooting, and a relentless, undeniable spirit famously known as puso, which translates to heart. But heart, as many critics have pointed out over the years, can only take you so far against towering giants. When you step onto the international stage, especially against a powerhouse like New Zealand, you are facing a wall of muscle, height, and fundamentally sound, aggressive basketball. The New Zealand Tall Blacks are renowned for their physical dominance, their elite rebounding, their disciplined defensive rotations, and their ability to completely neutralize the speed of smaller teams. Historically, matchups against New Zealand have been a mountain that Gilas Pilipinas has struggled to climb. They have been physical wars of attrition where the size and the strength of the Tall Blacks eventually wear down the Filipino squad. The narrative heading into this game was familiar to anyone who has followed Asian and Oceanian basketball. The experts, the analysts, the odds makers, they all pointed to the same conclusion. They said New Zealand would impose their will in the paint. They said the Tall Blacks would dominate the glass. They said the physicality would simply be too much for Gilas to handle over 40 minutes of regulation basketball. But sports, my friends, are not played on spreadsheets. They are not decided by historical averages or size advantages on paper. They are decided on the wood. They are decided in the chaotic, high-stakes crucible of the arena, where momentum swings like a pendulum and where a single moment of absolute brilliance can shatter a decade of precedent. And that is precisely what happened. We saw a Gilas Pilipinas team that refused to bow to the narrative. We saw a team that looked at the giants from New Zealand and decided that today the story would be written differently. The atmosphere in the arena was nothing short of electric. It was a cauldron of noise, a sea of passionate supporters who understood that they were witnessing a pivotal moment in their nation's basketball journey. Every single possession felt like a final. Every loose ball was contested, as if the fate of the universe depended on it. The tension in the building was palpable, a thick, heavy anticipation that hung in the air from the opening tip-off to the final, frantic seconds. Let me paint the picture of this wild ending for you right now, just to give you a taste of the madness we are about to unpack. Imagine the clock ticking down. Your lungs are burning. Your legs feel like lead. You've been engaged in a brutal, physical dogfight against one of the toughest teams in the world. The score is razor close, fluctuating with every trip down the floor. The New Zealand team executes a flawless offensive set, finding their shooters, crashing the board with terrifying intensity. But Gilas does not shatter. Instead, they dig deep into a reservoir of mental toughness that only truly great teams possess. The defensive rotations in those final minutes were a thing of beauty, a synchronized dance of desperation and intelligence. Players diving on the floor, sacrificing their bodies to disrupt passing lanes, contesting every single shot with ferocity that defied their exhaustion. And then, the offensive execution under the brightest lights. When the ball was swung, when the plays broke down and the shot clock was expiring, The stars of Gilas Pilipinas stepped into the void. The heart of this team was on full display. It wasn't just about drawing up the perfect play. It was about the sheer, unadulterated refusal to lose. It was about making the extra pass, trusting your teammate, and having the absolute ice-cold confidence to take and make the most high-pressure shots imaginable. The ending of this match was a beautiful, chaotic masterpiece. It was a wild scramble of emotion, a tactical chess match that descended into an all-out street fight for basketball supremacy, and ultimately, a glorious triumph of willpower over adversity. This game was a loud, undeniable statement to the rest of the world. It was Gilas Pilipinas shouting from the mountaintops that they are not just here to participate in the Asia Cup qualifiers. They are here to conquer. They are here to show that the evolution of their basketball program is real, that the investments in tactical discipline, in height, in global experience, and in strategic coaching are paying massive dividends. The heart of Gilas has always been their defining characteristic. But in this match against New Zealand, that heart was paired with a lethal, calculated execution that took the Tall Blacks completely by surprise. Over the next segment of this video, we are going to do a massive, comprehensive deep dive into exactly how this happened. We will break down the brilliant coaching adjustments that neutralized New Zealand's interior advantage. We will analyze the specific player matchups that turned the tide of the game. We will look at the unsung heroes who did the dirty work in the trenches, the defensive anchors who held the line when the pressure was immense, and of course, we will dissect that wild, unbelievable ending possession by possession, frame by frame, so you can truly appreciate the magnitude of what Gilas Pilipinas achieved. Grab your notebooks, settle in, because this is going to be an extensive journey into one of the greatest basketball games of the year. Welcome to the deep dive. To truly understand the architecture of this phenomenal performance, we have to start by analyzing the tactical blueprint laid out by the Gilas Pilipinas coaching staff. Facing New Zealand requires a very specific, highly disciplined approach. You cannot simply outrun them for 40 minutes, and you certainly cannot outmuscle them in a static, half-court game. The strategy required a delicate balance of pushing the pace when advantageous, while maintaining absolute, rigorous defensive integrity. Let us examine the first quarter. As expected, the Tall Blacks came out looking to establish dominance in the paint. They ran their heavy, bruising pick-and-roll sets, forcing the Gilas defenders into incredibly difficult decisions. Do you help off the strong side corner and risk a wide-open three-pointer from a New Zealand marksman? Or do you stay home and leave your big man on an island against a physically superior rolling big? In the early goings, New Zealand found success. Their ball movement was crisp, their screens were bone-rattling, and they managed to secure several crucial offensive rebounds that led to second-chance points. This is usually the part of the script where the Philippine team begins to crack. The physical toll of constantly battling bigger bodies usually manifests in tired legs and compromised defensive rotations by the second quarter. But this iteration of Gilas Pilipinas is built differently. The coaching staff made a brilliant adjustment midway through the first half. Instead of playing a traditional reactive drop coverage against the pick and roll, they began to hedge aggressively and recover with blinding speed. They utilized their guards' quickness to dig down into the post, harassing the New Zealand bigs just enough to disrupt their rhythm while completely abandoning the perimeter shooters. This required a level of communication and defensive synergy that is incredibly rare in international play, where teams have limited time to practice together. The heart of Gilas was evident in how they handled this defensive assignment. We saw guards fighting through screens that would stop a truck. We saw forwards playing significantly larger than their listed height, fronting the post, denying entry passes, and battling for every millimeter of real estate in the key. The rebounding battle, which everyone predicted would be a bloodbath in favor of New Zealand, became a hotly contested war zone. Gilas players were gang rebounding, sending 3, sometimes 4 men to the glass to secure the defensive board and immediately ignite the fast break. Speaking of the fast break, let us transition to the offensive side of the floor. Gilas knew that allowing New Zealand to set up their half-court defense would be a recipe for disaster. The Tall Blacks are disciplined, they communicate well, and their length makes it incredibly difficult to find clean passing lanes. The counter strategy for the Philippines was relentless. Controlled aggression in transition. Every defensive rebound, every forced turnover was treated as a launch pad. The guards pushed the ball up the floor with a terrifying velocity, forcing the New Zealand big men to sprint backwards and defend in space. This is where the individual brilliance of the Gila's roster truly began to shine. The playmaking was exceptional. The ball did not stick. It moved with purpose, zipping from side to side, probing the New Zealand defense for any sign of weakness. When the transition opportunities were not there, Gilas fell back into a meticulously designed half-court offense that relied heavily on continuous motion, off-ball screens, and decisive dribble penetration. We cannot discuss the heart of Gilas without focusing on the spectacular individual performances that anchored this team. The front court, tasked with the most physically demanding job on the floor, played with a level of courage that demands ultimate respect. They were bruised, they were battered, but they never backed down. They provided crucial rim protection, altering shots and forcing New Zealand into tough, contested finishes. On the offensive end, they set punishing screens, rolled hard to basket, and finished with authority when called upon. The perimeter players, however, were the engine that drove this unbelievable comeback and wild ending. The shot-making we witnessed in the second half was nothing short of legendary. When the game slowed down and the pressure reached a boiling point, the Gilas guards took over. We saw a deep, contested three-pointer splash in the faces of towering defenders. We saw acrobatic, twisting layups finish through heavy contact. We saw a level of ball-handling wizardry that left the New Zealand defenders grasping at air. But what truly separated this game from a standard basketball match was the psychological warfare taking place on the court. Basketball at this elite level is as much a mental game as it is a physical one. The Tall Blacks are a proud, highly successful program. They are not used to being challenged in this manner, especially by a team they historically physically dominate. As the game progressed, and as Gilas continued to answer every New Zealand run with a spectacular play of their own, you could see the doubt begin to creep into the eyes of the Tall Blacks. You could see it in the slight hesitation before a shot, the fractional delay in a defensive rotation, the frustrated body language after a misassignment. Gilas Pilipinas, conversely, grew stronger with every passing minute. The puso, the heart, began to manifest as an impenetrable armor of confidence. They believed they belonged on that court. They believed they were the better team. And that belief translated into a terrifying on-court synergy. Now, let us delve into the fourth quarter, the crucible where legends are forged and where this game earned its title of a wild ending. The final 10 minutes were an absolute roller coaster of emotions. The lead changed hands multiple times, with neither team able to establish a comfortable cushion. Every possession was a grueling, high-stakes battle. New Zealand would execute a flawless set play, pounding the ball inside for a high-percentage look, threatening to pull away. The arena would hold its collective breath. And then, Gilas would respond with a moment of pure magic. A heavily contested step-back jumper. A miraculous offensive rebound tipped out to an open shooter. A defensive stand that defied all logic, resulting in a shot clock violation that sent the crowd into an absolute frenzy. As the clock ticked under the 2-minute mark, the tension was unbearable. This is a territory where the heart of a team is truly tested. Legs are heavy. Lungs are screaming for oxygen, and the margin for error is absolutely zero. A single turnover, a single missed defensive assignment, a single rush shot can cost you the game. New Zealand, relying on their experience and discipline, ran their primary actions to perfection. They found their spots. But the Gilas defense, fueled by pure adrenaline and the deafening roar of the crowd, reached an entirely new level of intensity. They switched every screen flawlessly. They closed out on shooters with reckless abandon. They protected the rim as if their lives depended on it. And then came the closing sequence, the wild ending that everyone is talking about. With the game hanging in the balance, Gilas Pilipinas executed offensively with a cold-blooded precision that completely shattered the New Zealand defense. It wasn't just one player. It was a collective masterpiece. The ball movement in those final possessions was surgical. They manipulated the New Zealand defense, forcing them to commit, and then ruthlessly exploited the openings. The shot that sealed the game, the defensive stop that secured the victory, these were not lucky breaks. They were the culmination of years of hard work, tactical preparation, and an unbreakable, undeniable heart. When the final buzzer sounded, The eruption of joy was unlike anything we have seen in recent basketball history. It was a release of years of frustration, a validation of the Philippine basketball program's direction, and a pure, unadulterated celebration of the human spirit. The players collapsing on the floor in exhaustion and triumph, the coaching staff embracing, the fans in the arena and around the world losing their collective minds. It was a scene that perfectly encapsulated why we love the sport. This victory over New Zealand is not just a mark in the win column for the Asia Cup qualifiers. It is a paradigm shift. It proves that Gilas Pilipinas has bridged the gap. It proves that heart, when combined with elite tactical execution, discipline, and world-class talent, can overcome physical disadvantages. It proves that the Philippines is a legitimate, terrifying force in the Asian and Oceanian basketball landscape. The Tall Blacks played a phenomenal game. They were tough, they were skilled, and they pushed Gilas to the absolute limit. But on this night, in this arena, they ran into a force of nature. They ran into a team that simply refused to lose. They ran into the heart of Gilas Pilipinas. As we analyze the statistical breakdown of this game, the numbers tell a fascinating story, but they cannot capture the essence of what actually happened. You can look at the shooting percentages, the rebound margins, the assist-to-turnover ratios, and they might suggest a close, hard-fought basketball game, but they do not show the diving saves. They do not show the sheer willpower required to front a massive center in the post for 20 seconds. They do not show the ice-cold veins of a guard stepping up to take a game-deciding shot with the weight of a nation on his shoulders. This deep dive is about acknowledging the intangibles. It is about recognizing that basketball is a beautiful, complex tapestry woven from physical gifts, tactical intelligence, and emotional resilience. Gilas Pilipinas brought all three to the table against New Zealand. Their tactical adjustments were brilliant. Their physical effort was superhuman, and their emotional resilience, their heart, was the greatest we have ever seen. The implications of this wild ending will reverberate throughout the basketball world. Teams across the globe are taking notice. The scouting reports on Gilas Pilipinas are being rewritten right now. You can no longer just plan to outmuscle them. You have to prepare for a team that is tactically astute, defensively relentless, and completely unafraid of the big moment. As we begin to wrap up this incredibly extensive analysis of the Gilas Pilipinas versus New Zealand thriller, we need to take a step back and look at the broader picture. What does this wild, historic ending mean for the future of Philippine basketball, for the Asia Cup qualifiers, and for the international basketball community at large? First and foremost, this game serves as a monumental confidence booster for the entire Gilas Pilipinas program. For years, there's been a lingering question mark whenever the team faced elite, world-class opposition, particularly teams with the size and systemic discipline of New Zealand or Australia. There was always a fear that despite the heart, despite the puso, the physical barriers were simply insurmountable. This victory shatters that psychological ceiling. The players in that locker room now know, not just believe, but objectively know, that they can stand toe-to-toe with the giant of game and emerge victorious. This kind of confidence is infectious. It permeates the training camps, it elevates the intensity of practices, and it alters the very DNA of the team heading into future tournaments. For the Asia Cup qualifiers, this result completely upends predicted standings. Gilas Pilipinas has positioned themselves not just as contenders to qualify, but as absolute frontrunners to dominate their group. They have sent a clear, undeniable warning shot to every other team in the region. The road to the Asia Cup Championship now definitively runs through Manila. Opposing coaches will be spending countless hours reviewing the tape of this game, trying to decipher the defensive schemes and offensive fluidity that dismantled the Tall Blacks. Furthermore, we must discuss the impact this game has on the next generation of basketball players in the Philippines. Imagine being a young kid playing on a concrete court in Cebu or Manila or Davao, watching this game unfold. You're watching players who look like you, who play with the same passion and flair that you do, completely out-hustling and outplaying a world powerhouse. This game is not just a victory. It is an inspiration. It validates the dreams of millions of young athletes who aspire to wear the national colors. It proves that with relentless dedication, rigorous training, and an unbreakable spirit, greatness is attainable on the global stage. The heart of Gilas, so wonderfully displayed in this match, is a reflection of the Filipino spirit itself. Resilient, joyful, defiant in the face of insurmountable odds, and always fighting until the very last second. This is why the connection between this team and its fan base is arguably the strongest in all of international sports. When Gilas wins, the entire nation wins. And when they secure a victory in such a wild, breathtaking fashion against a formidable opponent like New Zealand, the celebration is truly global. Looking ahead, the coaching staff deserves an immense amount of credit. The evolution of the tactical system was fully on display. The ability to pivot mid-game, to trust the players to execute complex defensive rotations, and to foster an environment where individual brilliance can operate within a team-first concept is the hallmark of elite coaching. The blueprint has been laid out. The challenge now is consistency. Can Gilas Pilipinas replicate this level of intensity, focus, and execution game after game, tournament after tournament? If the answer is yes, then we are entering a golden era of Philippine basketball. To the New Zealand Tall Blacks, immense respect is due. They played a phenomenal game and contributed to an absolute classic. Their physicality and skill forced Gilas to elevate their game to unprecedented heights. This rivalry, which has historically been one-sided, has now blossomed into one of the most compelling matchups in international basketball. Future encounters between these two proud nations will be highly anticipated, must-watch events. As we close this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Basketball at its highest level is a form of art. It is a dramatic narrative unfolding in real time, filled with heroes, adversity, tension, and ultimate resolution. What Gilas Pilipinas painted on the court against New Zealand was a masterpiece of grit and determination. The wild ending was not a fluke. It was the inevitable result of a team that simply wanted it more, a team that leaned on its heart when its legs were failing. Thank you for joining me on this incredibly detailed journey through one of the best games of the year. I hope this breakdown provided you with a deeper appreciation of the tactical nuances, the physical exertion, and the emotional magnitude of this historic clash.